Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Good evening, everyone. I have 6:06, a little bit of a late start, but I will now open up the Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, September 7th, 2023. We are meeting tonight here at the Wacoit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. And the meeting is also being broadcast live on local cable channel 8. And we are also streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website. Before we begin, if you would like to join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sorry for the late start, a little bit of traffic confusion out there on the street, but we're good to go. Before I begin tonight's agenda, if there is any public comment for issues that are not posted on tonight's agenda, this would be the time to address the commission. Anyone at all? No, nobody online? Okay. I'm going to skip over the minute meetings and go directly to the discussion before we begin our hearings. The discussion tonight is the Whedon-Landry petition articles. I believe Brian is here. If you'd like to come up, Brian. Good evening.
Good evening.
I know you were here at our last meeting under public comment, and both of us agreed that it would be better to get this as an agenda item so that you could be a little bit more informative, and we can take it up as a discussion with the commission. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time this evening. Sorry about my voice. I was at a powwow all weekend and I was drumming, so I kind of lost my voice a little bit here.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah. Wanina Khan, good evening. Natasuis Mosquita, New Tomas Masipia, Kanatai Masipia. So, good afternoon. My name is Bearhart. I come from Mashpee and live in Mashpee. I'm here to talk about Article 9, which is a petitioner's article. The article was recommended by the FinCom by a vote of 5-1. The Select Board also took a vote to support this as well, 3-1 with one abstention. This article would expand the Old Indian Cemetery. In 2008, at the town meeting, the town authorized the selectmen release title to the tribe for the Old Indian Cemetery. This article will authorize the select board release parcel map 68, block 13C to the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe for the purpose of expanding the current cemetery. That was an old map and page number. The revised one is the map that you have in front of you. It's map 68, lot 13B, lot 14, and lot 16. So off of the GIS website, we're talking about these corner parcels between Meeting House Road and Falmouth Road on 28. The parcels would be a little bit over an acre and a half. The reason why I wanted to bring this to the Conservation Commission's attention is not so much for a vote of endorsement for this particular article. However, the town bylaws do state that if the town does dispose of the land, then conservation has first rights to that parcel. So kind of more of just a courtesy to say that this would be the purpose of that. If the opportunity does come up and it does get, disposed of and the select board decides to move forward, just wanted you to know and have the common courtesy of knowing what the intention and the purpose would be behind that. If conservation was also interested, I'm sure we can, talk about things.
Okay. All set? Thank you. Questions or comments from commissioners first? Anything you'd like to ask or say?
Brian, can I just ask you, what's the history of this in terms of the last couple of years? Making the plan, going through the process of informing others, and is this something that you all have been putting together for a while, and it's just now coming to fruition, because I plead semi-ignorance on the history.
So this was intentionally done as an individual petitioner's article, just like I had done with the Town Seal, Indigenous Peoples' Day, and the Youth Commission back in the day. There was a need. The cemetery that we currently have, the Great Neck Woods Cemetery, was built in 2002. And prior to that being the town cemetery, the old Indian Meeting House was the town cemetery. So the IGA between the town and the tribe basically was the agreement that we wouldn't sue each other for land, so on and so forth. But in that agreement, it talks about the parcels that the town gave to the tribe at the time. There were 8 parcels. The museum's one of them, the tribal headquarters, the parsonage, so on and so forth. So what happened is we still honor those deeds because of the IGA. So there are town residents that do have deeds that can still be buried in the old Indian cemetery. However, we don't have enough space. You can't buy deeds or plots anymore. I think it's like $600 to buy a plot over at the Great Neck Woods Cemetery. And unfortunately, we're losing too many tribal members. Our population's almost around 4,000, and that doesn't include spouses as well as community members who are also eligible to be buried there as well.
So right now, the cemetery that I know as the Wampanoag Sacred Burial Ground is full, basically.
Yeah, I would say it's...
Taken, spoken for.
Yeah, it's about to capacity. If you look at the new section, which is closer towards the DPW, we're kind of running out of space, and we do have the land all the way to 28, so they're going to have to start clearing more as well.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? No, we're all set? Dan?
So I'm going to read what we have for our comments for the agents here this time. So the agents have concern about the proposed transfer. I'm sorry, this is for Lake Ave, the comment I was going to make. But for this one, the agents have no concerns over these parcels.
Okay,
So I'm
thank
just
you.
trying to do the Zoom and
Yeah.
multitask, that's my bad.
I do know there is another article for the 12 acres. I do believe that there is some reluctancy on the town side. This particular parcel, if you look at it, it's all woods. I mean, I don't think the town is actively using this parcel. However, the Lakewood Ave parcel, I would say, is highly utilized by town residents as well as visitors as well. And there's a lot more history behind that one as well. And my understanding is that when they do take land for back taxes, there might be some conservation restrictions and easements on them already, which I believe is something that town council had told us when we went to the finance committee as well. I think the other thing is that the tribe would have to work with the town, because the town would have to sell it for its current value, and if they were going to sell it for less, they would have to describe why they were selling it for less. These parcels altogether, I believe, come out to almost around 200,000.
And how many acres?
This is 1.6. So if you look, I attached the 3 different information keys as well for the parcels with the value and kind of the description of the land. The largest parcel would be the 13B.
Okay. So in terms of procedure, Brian, you're not looking for an endorsement from us tonight. This is a petitioner article. It'll go before a town meeting. You need 2/3 vote, I believe?
Correct.
And then you would enter into negotiations with the town.
Correct.
If you come to an agreement, then you would come back to the commission for any concerns that we may have or first options to the land? Is that, am I wrong in saying that, or? is that-
No, I believe that's correct.
Okay,
I believe the town would come to the commission.
probably
First,
prior to
yeah.
that, sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Maybe we've got it, Dan, under the agent comments. Has anyone to date come forward, just as a point of information, to let us know that they object to the transfer?
For this parcel, no.
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 So there's nobody saying, hey, conservation, use it for X, Y, Z.
No, in this
So there's no
parcel,
controversy.
no, there's no controversy from the conservation aspect, and we haven't had anyone come forward with concerns over this. When it comes to this parcel in general, it's just open space in an awkward area
Yeah.
for anything that's usable
Yeah.
by the residents. So in this case, I think it's completely appropriate.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just open it up to the public for any questions or comments that they may have as well. Anyone? No, we're all set. Okay, well, Brian, thank you for coming in and filling us in on this. Keep us informed as you go along. I'm sure we'll hear anyways, but we'll certainly be more than happy to do whatever we can do to facilitate this for you guys.
Thank you for your time, and it's good to see everyone again. Keep up the
to
great
see you.
work. Thank you.
Brian?
We're trying.
Take care of your voice.
Don't throw it.
Not gonna, not with my luck.
Okay. I'm going to forego the updates and move right to our first hearing.
All right.
I'm going to call the 6 o'clock hearing for 45 Buccaneer Way, Christopher Hool. This is a proposed reconstruction of front deck, stairs, walkway, and back patio, repair of existing retaining wall with improvements in site drainage, driveway repave, and expansion with associated landscaping. The representative is the owners, Michael F. and Carol A. Hool. This is continued from July 13th and August 10th, and it is a request for determination of applicability.
He's on.
Okay, so our representative is online. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. For the record, this is Christopher Hool, representing the homeowner, Michael F. Hool. And just a brief clarification that Carol Hool is not on the application. She's deceased. So, I jump right into my presentation here. It's going to be brief. Following up from our July hearing, I've provided the requested information to the commission. Just to go through the list here, I was requested to provide a site plan with buffers and delineations, which is shown in the plan provided. All trees have been surveyed. The proposed plan shows new grades, locations of erosion control, and mitigation for work that's occurring within the buffer zone. To highlight the buffer zone work, just to recap from the previous meeting, we have 2 tree removals, pitch pine removals close to the shed, and selective limbing for several other trees. Mitigation plantings in the buffer zone and for those tree removals, and then we've actually included a vegetated berm to address the replacement of the existing lawn, even though it's not required under the bylaw. We provided that as a addition to this plan to address any sort of questions or concerns regarding the replacement of the existing lawn. So with that, I'll turn it to the commission, and thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open it up for any questions that commissioners might have of the representative.
Mr. Chairman, plan
Yes.
looks, a very good plan, has all the details that we requested.
Yep.
Shows the property boundaries, so the applicant knows, where his boundaries are, and where the limit of work is. So, yeah, this is all good.
So you're satisfied with what we've got? Great. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Alex? Okay. Let me go out to members of the audience. If there's any questions from the public or comments? Seeing none? No one else online, Dan?
No.
Agents' comments? Concerns?
So the buffer zone here is top of Coastal Bank. Applicant has provided a surveyed plan as per the requirement of the commission. Surveyed plan shows extent of the 100-foot buffer zone, which includes areas of proposed hazard tree removal, hazard tree pruning, and mitigation thereof. All proposed site grading and hardscape falls outside of wetlands jurisdiction. Agents recommend a negative determination.
Thank you. Okay. I'd accept the motion if there is one.
for a negative determination.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Alex. Motion is made and seconded for a negative determination. Up for discussion amongst commissioners, if there is anything.
Looks good.
Good? We're good? Okay, then I'll take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Thank you. Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. Marjorie?
Yes?
Thank you. Sandy?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you very much. One point of clarification, I did not hear any conditions that were stated, so my understanding is that we do not need to record anything in relation to this negative determination. Is that accurate?
Correct. As for the conditions, you won't need to record anything for there. When it comes to the RDA, you'll get that in certified mail. After the hearing, within the next 21 days. So
Perfect.
you'll be good to go from there.
Okay. And
Thank
then
you.
work can commence upon receipt of that negative determination.
Correct, yes.
Thank you very much, members of the commission. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just jot a note here. Okay, moving on to the 603 hearing for 42 Wheeler Road, Marico de Jesus. Proposed raise and replace of a single-family dwelling with associated landscaping and hardscaping. Representative is Cawley Site Services LLC. This is a request on this? or-
Yes, they requested
Okay.
a continuance because they did not, first off, they didn't have the nitrogen loading calculations, and this is a raise and replace, so that's absolutely needed. And there was a couple other things that were missing from their packets, so they needed time to address that.
Okay.
They requested to
Do we have a date, time? for
the
that?
21st at 6:18 is what they requested.
And that fits in our schedule?
They were the last ones, yes.
Okay, so 9/21, 6/18.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a request for a continuance, September 21st, 6/18, for some missing information. I'd entertain a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, for 42 Wheeler Road, the motion to continue to September 21st at 6:18 PM.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Motion made and seconded. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes?
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So that will be continued to 9/21, 6/18. Okay. Moving on to the 606 hearing, 47 Whippoorwill, Bridget M. Nelson. This is a proposed septic system upgrade. Representative is Cape and Islands Engineering. This is an RDA. We have somebody? Yes, we do.
Just gonna hold this if I have to. Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering on behalf of the applicant Bridget Nilsson for 47 Whippoorwill Circle. We submitted an RDA for a septic repair at this property. The entire property is within an AE flood zone. No renovations or changes to the house are proposed. There was a voluntary septic inspection that determined that the deeper structures that exist today did not have appropriate separation to groundwater, and was voluntary as a result of a pending real estate transaction. And so we are proposing to replace the system, generally in the same location as existing, with flow diffusers, where we're able to achieve groundwater separation from observed groundwater of about 6.1 feet to adjusted groundwater to 4 feet. We did receive a comment today from Drew that even though this is strictly just a repair, that it does need to meet Regulation 30 for nitrogen loading. I understand that it was today, but I did do the calculations based on these existing conditions, and the resulting calculation was 12.89 parts per million on the loading. And also, not shown on the plan is the nearest water in all directions is approximately 650 feet. To the northwest is the closest area, and about 900 linear feet to some water in the south and east. And therefore, we're also outside the 300-foot jurisdiction for the Board of Health requirements. That's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I have not seen any of the nitrogen calculation figures. Obviously, they came in today, I guess, at a fairly late hour, so because that's after the deadline, I wouldn't allow that into the hearing regardless. I would just ask you to request a continuance. You're stating that you have a total output of 12.89,
Correct.
and based on the plans that we have, that I had when I was on the site, you're asking for a waiver for groundwater separation from 5 feet to 4 feet?
Correct, with the health department.
Right. And this is a standard Title V tank, not an IA system? Wow. Well, again, I haven't seen the figures, so I would like to look at all of those nitrogen calculations. 12.89 seems kind of low for a standard Title V tank.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure there's other variables that you've calculated in, but where it's so close to the groundwater, I'd be interested to see everything that's on that calculation sheet, and I have not seen it. But let me ask the other commissioners what their concerns are, and we'll go from there.
I would support your motion for a continuance.
Well, it's not a motion. I just feel as though when information comes in at such a late hour,
I know.
it's hard to use that information in a structural sense in a hearing because nobody has seen it. So,
And I would just say particularly since, I share your concern, since you're not voluntarily going to an IA, it would be nice if you would. We can't compel you to, but in these times, it would be responsible to do so, I think.
any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mike, how did you get down to the 12.89 with the standard Title V?
I mean, it's a function of the number of bedrooms, the lot area, and then, the paved area, the roof area, and then your lawn area and your natural areas. And it's just a function of those components together, plugged into the different loading rates and the different calculations right on. What we did supply was the exact Mashpee calculation sheet. And it basically, it takes the average of the Title V loading, and which is generally 2 times the real water calculation. So it takes the average of that loading, so 330 gallons per day, and also then takes the calculation based on Mashpee census for how many people would live in a 3-bedroom house, and calculates those two together. So it's actually the Title V was 15.6, and the actual was 10. Well, 10.1 and 16.68. So the average was 12.8. It's a standard way of doing these calculations. It's been done by the Cape Cod Commission for years. Your new form is almost exactly, we actually did it both ways to see if the numbers came out and they were within a couple tenths. They use a loading rate slightly different than yours, but for the actual rates. But that's, it's a function of the formulas and how they've always been calculated.
On that form, I know there is a specific column in that Excel sheet for the tank itself and the water load that's coming out of it. Do you have a figure for that? I'm just trying to isolate the tank from the rest of the lot, where it's so close to groundwater.
I don't understand your question.
Do you have those figures in front of you?
Yep.
Can
I
you
have
just-
some copies too, but I'm not
I could just-
expecting you to digest them all
I'm not
today.
going to be able to look at the whole thing. I'm just curious, because I know the tank itself usually is broken out. Sure, it says water from Title V design, and you've got 43,716 milligrams for 1,248 liters. And then you come down to the next column, and it's the actual nitrogen load and actual water load, and that's 18,214.5 to 520.5. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what does that come out to in terms of milligrams per liter? They look about the same. That's got to be somewhere in the 30s. Does anybody have a calculator?
I can. Yeah, 35 on Title V. Yes, the same.
Of 35? So the effluent coming out of the tank contains 35 milligrams of nitrogen per liter, correct? And this effluent is going to go into a leach field with a waiver requirement of 4 feet above groundwater? I got to believe a lot of that nitrogen's getting into the groundwater. And I know there's a lot of other variables, because I'm looking at them now, and I see this. I like the fact that there's a diagram showing all of the areas so that you can see the natural surface, the lawn, the landscaping, the roofs. But all of these other areas, although they're there, really don't have a direct effect on the effluent that's getting into the groundwater from that tank. Unless it's magic. I mean, I don't see it. Do you?
I mean, it's a. I'm trying to think of the way to say this. It considers all the factors, that being lawn as well, and adds to that and averages them. Hard to explain how, the criteria, your standard is in parts per million. It's not milligrams per liter on. Your standard is to identify whether you're above 19 or below 19 parts per million. And in this case, we're identified that we're around 12.8 or 13.
Right, but all the other variables.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, going back to my original statement, I would like some time to go through that entire sheet, look at the diagram that you have, maybe even go back on the site. So that's my view. Would you like to give us the opportunity to take time to go over this, or do you want to proceed?
If the applicant were willing to include an IA, is it something you could approve without reviewing these calculations? I mean,
I can only speak for myself, but I'd be amenable to see an IA system go in, but I'd still like to look at the calculations. I mean, there's a lot there. It's the first time I've seen it, so.
Yeah, there's a pending real. I just didn't get to find out the current situation of the pending real estate transaction. So, but I did have some discussions early on. We believe it doesn't meet a mandatory requirement for an IA, but if it's the board's suggestion that, and if we're able to submit a revised plan with an IA, if the board could make a decision tonight. But I won't force it.
Sure. I can ask for comments from the commissioners, how they feel about that, one way or the other.
It seems as though you're saying you would be amenable to altering the whole proposal to include the IA.
Correct.
And Mr. Chairman, though, you're saying that you still want to see the additional information as it relates to the nitrogen level.
Well, when Mr. Dibbs was presenting, I wrote 12.89 down, and I was amazed that it would be that low with a standard Title V tank. That's why I started my questioning as to, the amount of effluent coming out of the tank and
Right.
everything else. So I would really like to look at all the figures. Obviously, as part of the hearing, I'm not allowing those figures in tonight because they just came in late this afternoon. So my preference is to take the time to look at this thing, the way we should be looking at it.
So your preference is the continuance.
I'd like to see a continuance.
I'd like to see the IA.
Yep.
There's ways you vote.
I don't know.
I'd
Yes,
just like to say, whether these projects are simple, they seem simple, they're all different, and, we do understand that now that even a project of this type being a straight repair does need the nitrogen calculations. It's probably the first one as a firm. You see us a lot,
Yep.
and, we understand and did try to submit the calculations today, but just
Yeah.
wanted to make that known that, we hate to submit things at the last minute.
so do we.
All around. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be, open to continuance it, we need more time to look at the calculations, but if the applicant's open for a IA system, everybody's plans and then new calculations, all better.
Sure. Yep.
Can that be done if we take action tonight and then they come back and work with you, Dan and Drew,
Yes, what you would do
on
is,
administrative?
you would motion for a negative determination with the condition that the
condition?
tank be an IA system.
Steve, you're good at conditional,
But we would still want to see the parts per million under a certain amount.
exactly.
So we need
Yes.
to see
The calculations.
calculations to the staff
Yep,
Exactly.
meeting.
yep.
Yes.
But before we go to any motion, I still want to go out to the public for any questions or comments and hear from the agent as well. Anything else? Okay. Questions or comments from the public? Doesn't look like there's any. Dan,
Right.
anything you have?
Septic upgrade due to failure.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
You scared me half to death.
Sorry. I'm Andrea Hubbard Nelson. I am the daughter of the owner of the property, actually. I'm sorry that I don't understand why all the documents weren't ready. We've been waiting a long time to get this done, but this is fixing a system that had problems. I think it would be a really hardship for my mother, who is an elderly lady living on a pension, to be required to put in a very expensive system that is somewhat experimental. So I just want to state that I think it's a hardship. I know that at some point in the future, there will probably be money for people from the state to help them upgrade. But if it's not a requirement right now, I think that spending many thousands of extra dollars would be a hardship. She just wants to fix the system so that it can keep the groundwater clean at this point. That's her whole intention. So I just wanted to put that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Would you rather?
But I want it to, we need to have it done quickly.
Is 2 weeks, because we could submit these.
If we submit it, then it will happen now. It sounds like it's going to take
It
a continuance anyways.
It could happen now, potentially happen now if we agree to the IA system. If we wait 2 weeks, we can have them review the calculations thoroughly.
And-
It could still result in an IA system.
I'm just curious, since you do a lot of these, what does it, how much is it extra does it cost someone to put in this system? And are these systems, are they proven to reduce nitrogen and other pollutants?
There are several systems right now that are approved by the Department of Environmental Protection. So the word experimental for those is not adequate. They work. What they cost depends on the site and what the installation factors are in getting the old tank out and getting the new tank in. I can't put a set figure on it for you. But they're expensive, I'll admit that.
It is a hardship for someone if it's not a requirement for an elderly person who's living on a pension. On the other hand, yeah, we've been waiting a long time for this. So
Isn't this a sale? Aren't you selling the
it
house?
will, yes, it will be a sale.
You use some of the proceeds for the sale of the house?
Well, this is all the money my mother has is in this house, so.
Well, it's just anecdotal, but the value of your home with an IA is greater than with a title file. I'm just saying.
So either 2 weeks and try, or it's about 10.
If it can get done right away, then we want that, but
Okay.
otherwise.
Okay, let me hear the comments from our agent, and then we'll go from there.
Septic upgrade due to failure of existing system, separation from groundwater. Project location is greater than 300 feet from nearest water body and thus not required to have an IA system per Board of Health regulations. Nitrogen loading calculations submitted today, but they do fall under the threshold of 19 parts per million. Board of Health will review application upon submittal. Agent recommends a negative determination, but will defer to the commission as whether they request a continuance.
Okay, thank you. All right, no other questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, so the
Yes.
suggestion is, the motion would be made to install an IA system and the plan submitted back to the agent for review and final.
Final approval with the new calculations. Yes, it would be a negative determination with that condition for it. Or you could make a motion to continue the hearing to our next meeting so that we have enough time to look at the present calculations and determine if this is going to adequately protect the groundwater. That is our charge.
I'll make a motion to bring negative determination and installation of an IA system
Okay,
because of the distance to groundwater.
okay. And do you want to include a new set of calculations?
Yeah, new set of calculations and a revised plan be submitted to the agent for final review.
Okay. So I have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
Marjorie? Okay. Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I just want to comment that the reason why we're against the Title V is because the Title V is designed to move the effluent away from the house and into the ground. So it is designed to poison the ground. That is why
It is designed, I'm sorry, I can't quite.
it is designed to poison the ground. Like, it is designed to bring the effluent and get it away from the house and into the ground. So it's like, the Title V is designed to get it away from the house, and then ultimately, with 4 or 5 feet from the groundwater, it's getting into the groundwater. So I just want to know that that's why we're requiring the Title V, or requiring an IA
An IA.
over the Title V.
So does that tell me that you support the motion?
I do.
Okay.
Anything else from the commissioners?
Are you good?
I'm good. I just want to give you guys the opportunity to question or comment before I roll call. What's that? Okay. Take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now calling the 6:09 hearing for 108 Captain's Row. This is Nicholas M. and Kathy M. DeGuisto. Proposed raise and replace embankment steps and deck, Representative McAllister Marine Construction. This hearing has been continued from July 27th and August 10th, and we have another request for a continuance, waiting on a surveyed plan to be completed as per the requirement of our commission. An engineer has been engaged by the applicant, but the plan is not ready.
Sam,
So-
make a motion to continue the project for 108 Captain's Row to a date.
November 2nd at 6 PM.
November 2nd.
Yeah, they're, just so you know, they do have a contractor. It's all lined up, but he's not coming till the beginning of October or the end of September. So they just want some wiggle room just to make sure.
Okay. And the time on that again, Dan?
6 PM.
6, okay. And second by Alex. Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So that will be continued to November 2, 6 o'clock. Wow, November already. Plenty-
Yes.
plenty of- Exactly, yeah. Okay, calling the 6:12 hearing for 33 Sunset Circle. Kevin and Suzanne Milgrew, trustees, proposed deck demolition and reconstruction. Representative is Marsh Matters Environmental. This is a notice of intent.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you again. Mike Ball from Marsh Matters Environmental, here representing the Mulgrews of Walpole, Massachusetts, who own the property at 33 Sunset. This is a .43 acre site on Johns Pond. House was built in 1973. Presumably, the deck was probably also built at that time. They're looking to demolish the deck and rebuild it with an addition. We've got resource areas, including inland bank associated with the pond, a small area of BVW, and the buffer zone extends, as you can see on the plan, halfway into the house. So all the work is within the 50-foot buffer. So the house itself is essentially non-conforming, like a lot of the houses on the pond shore. I just want to make sure you've got the revised plan. Let's see here. So what is on the screen, it looks like the existing conditions. And Rick Hood had prepared the original plan, but I asked him to revise it just to clarify some things on the plan and to more accurately show where the mitigation is going. So the date of the most up-to-date plan is August 7.
Yes, and they have it in their packets.
They've got it, perfect, perfect, okay. I mentioned the BVW and bank as the resource areas. Their natural heritage, the priority habitat extends just to the edge of the pond, so we're not in any priority or estimated habitat. The project itself will extend the deck on the south side, removing a set of stairs that provides access down an embankment. You can kind of see those stairs in that picture to the right there. So that set of stairs comes out. The proposal is to extend the deck to the south end of the house, so it would be flush with the house, and that's where the new stairs would go. They provide access from the deck to the ground where there isn't currently stairs. In that one area, it's about 15 feet long. At that end of the house, they'd like to extend the deck by 6 feet. So right now, the deck across the back is a 10-foot depth, and they'd like for that one section to have it come out another 6 feet so they can, put a table and all that stuff. On the north side, they are just replacing those existing stairs, and I think the stairs are going to go from what's now 3 feet to about 4 feet, so there's a slight increase in footprint over there. Beneath the project, as you can see from the pictures, they've got existing hardscape, and they've got existing lawn. And again, this is an elevated deck expansion, no hardscape expansion on the ground, so the work will just be above the existing hardscape and above existing lawn. So as for mitigation, I've put a planting plan together for you, proposing 510 square feet of lawn removal in between this mulch slope and the existing bank of the pond. That's 65 native plants to occupy that 500 square feet. Those would be 3 foot on center. I've proposed 1, 2, 3, looks like 4 or 5 different species, including one tree, American holly. No trees will need to be removed. There was a question about that one tree at the south end of the house. It's a pretty significant oak, but the builder, Dream Homes Improvement, says that they don't need to touch that tree, so that will remain. Mention mitigation. Deck temp. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to commissioners first. I have a few concerns, but I'll wait.
My only question is whether, and I guess it's to you, Dan, whether or not I'm hearing this right, that there's a revised from the original. Did I get a copy of that?
In the packet, you should all have a packet like this.
I
Do
do
you
have the packet, but it's only one page.
I've got an extra.
I'm so sorry. Let me-
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, I just have a single.
Do I have to say this is so,
Yeah, this is
Oh, this is on this?
and this is the one that I'm supposed to be looking at?
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the,
We have the right plan, we just don't have the packet with the.
I just don't, that's okay, as long as I'm looking at
As
the
long, yeah.
accurate drawings.
Yeah.
And does it in any way, Dan, address the issues that the agent comments raise about the expansion being too close to the pond?
No, that's something that will have to be brought up tonight with the discussion with the applicant and their representation. When it
That's
comes,
not what, I'm sorry, say it again?
when it comes to the deck going closer to the pond,
Yes.
we have not had any discussions with them about it. That's just a comment we noted in there that will have to be brought up tonight amongst the commissioners and the representation.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Just so long as we get some sort of a,
Yeah, I will add,
Answer to
I
that.
didn't have it in my notes here, but this does require ZBA review because we submitted the Form 2, and because we're within 50 feet, structure is within 50 feet, ZBA has to review it. I did talk to building department, and they said this will be approved, but it has to go through that process. So the builder said that he was taking care of that step. So I don't know, I think the hearing before ZBA will be sometime in October.
One sec, I actually have it here.
It's been filed for.
Yes, it has been filed for.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know that you said that the dream home builder said that that tree would be protected.
Yeah.
It looks like the deck is going like to the tree, like within 2 feet of the tree.
Yeah, if you look at that right picture, up in the upper right there, it does look very close, and it is very close, but that deck will come out and be in line with the edge of the house. So there won't be any footings going in the ground there. It'll just be attached to the house, and so there's no.
That corner won't have any footing. That corner that goes right to the tree.
That corner that's currently near the tree won't get any closer to the tree.
The deck addition has a corner that goes to the tree.
Let me just see that. So this drawing right here, yeah, so this is a drawing that I did based on the plan, and so let's see.
The tree's in line with the house.
I'm just gonna check the, right, so that, I see what you mean. So that, the deck itself will extend to the edge of the house, but the set of stairs will replace that existing set of stairs. So so that existing set of stairs will be similar in width, but it will be rotated 90 degrees to the back face of the house and then connect to the elevated deck.
Okay, so, what was the thinking of putting the deck on this side of the house rather than the other side of the house?
Putting the expansion,
Yeah.
the increase, that I don't know.
Because if they put it on the other side, it seems that there's a lot less issues. They're not getting closer to the resource area. They're not then looking into trees that are blocking their view. If they put it on the other side, it seems to me that the trees that are there as a buffer are more protected because there's no will, so to speak, to prune them. Because they're not going to be blocking the view of what will probably be like a gathering area of a deck. It seems like it would be better suited on the other side for a lot of reasons.
Not to interrupt you,
Yeah,
but
please.
in tagging along with what Alex said, the deck is getting closer to the resource area.
Correct.
Having this jog, jog in a small area. And then in your filing, you mentioned that the increase will provide more functional area for seating. So if we're going to get a little closer to the deck, couldn't you cantilever those joists and keep the footings where they're at on a 10-foot deck? Go up cantilever out.
That's a-
You have a 13-foot deck across the existing footprint of it.
And eliminate the footings.
Eliminate that whole piece. Yeah, I understand the stairs, rebuild the stairs a little wider.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense for egress and so forth. But now you just come out 3 feet and cantilever it out, so you don't have your footings into that bank, because where the footings of this proposed deck are, the bank goes down pretty steep there. So those footings, you'd have to dig down maybe into where that beach and cobblestones are, looking at that photograph. And that's a pretty steep bank right at that corner.
6 feet.
So from I'm just thinking a practical standpoint from what Alex says, saying, okay, now we're getting close to the wetland. If you just keep your footings there, you can cantilever out, which is 7 feet up in the air. It's minimal impact.
Is 3 feet a standard cantilevered? You mentioned 3 I know they're proposing 6. It sounds like what you're saying is a 6-foot cantilever probably wouldn't be possible.
No, it wouldn't be.
So 3 feet's kind of, yep.
2 to 3 feet. Inspections does that, but then, into that, where that sharp bank is, where that, you can see it, the grades of, trends right there, it drops off quickly.
Yep.
And I was out there tonight, I saw where the stakes were. The stake was right We looked at it.
Yeah, this one right here, Steve, that's the one. Because this is the slope right here, where the cursor is, and it's a 1 foot drop, almost a 1 foot drop to that stake.
Right, so, yeah, but then it drops off really quick.
Yeah, then it drops off even quicker.
Yeah, really quick after that, yeah, so that's my concern, is that post, that footing's gonna be sticking up out of the ground, and the grade below it's gonna be, you know, so that footing has to go, 4 feet below grade, and the grade's dropping off, so.
Yeah. I'm looking at that stake in the photograph there, and it does look, that looks more than, to me, it looks more than 6 feet from the edge of that, from the edge of the existing deck.
And, the agent, and Dan will say this, what's the compelling need to have that deck at that location? Versus, can't leave it at the deck. Maybe, get 12 feet versus 10 feet over 30, 31 feet. And it's already, I don't think, well, you see that you have pavers right underneath Dan, so.
Underneath the deck?
Yeah.
Yeah, underneath
And then
this whole thing.
There's already posts there. So, so it's already disturbed area. So at least, yeah, the picture I took today, you can see the posts are in disturbed areas. Minimal impact versus, where deck goes.
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, I don't think, when I see projects like this working on existing lawn, I don't necessarily see deck footings as being impactful to the resource area itself. I recognize we're in the 50-foot buffer, but I don't tend to share the opinion that an elevated deck extending out actually impacts the functions of the resource areas, which is typically how we want to assess a project. That said, I understand we're getting closer to the resource area within 50 linear feet, that buffer zone. But these are suggestions I'll just have to bring back to the homeowners and the contractor. And we certainly have time because it's got to go before ZBA, and so. But to me, whether you have footings 3 feet out or 6 feet out, it really doesn't impact the resource area. We're not taking any native vegetation out of the buffer zone. It's just one of these situations where certainly this existing condition would never be permitted these days, but it's here, and so we're looking at what the impacts are.
So you have a sloped area underneath it that you're then gonna put pavers on, so,
No pavers.
if there's not any pavers under the addition area?
Correct.
Okay, I read that wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, no increase in hardscape.
We're good. Any questions, Sandy? I wanted to address the proposed planting area, the 510 square feet. And I'll use the photograph that's up here. When I was on the site, you can see a marked difference in the backyard of this property. Everything on the left is all shade and everything on the right is all sun. And, you can basically see how the sun is tracking. Maybe that's what encouraged the owners to want the expansion on that side. Maybe they just want to sit in the sun on their deck. But I'm concerned about the mitigation. It's totally shaded all day long. It's going to be a tough call to get stuff to grow there.
All of these species, if you look at them, Highbush blueberry, pepperbush, American holly, northern arrowwood, switchgrass, maybe with the exception of switchgrass, which I've put on the outside, but all of those woody species are found in shaded woodlands. And so I don't think
So
we're
you
going to
feel
have a,
Confident they'll be
yeah,
okay?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, there'd be a proposed monitoring period anyways.
yeah.
The concern that I have, and it has nothing to do with the project itself, was the beach area. To me, it looked as though it had just been all renourished or replenished. The sand looks all new, and a lot of it's eroding right down into the pond. And I don't know, is that something that was permitted? Or-
Not through our department, no.
Yeah, I have no knowledge of, yeah. It's clearly a maintained beach area. whether or not any nourishment has occurred, I just don't know.
And I can make a quick comment on that. With the storm we had about a month ago now, the heavy rains, a lot of these properties on Sunset and, is it James before that? Yeah, James Circle before that, they had some beach damage. Some have contacted me because their beaches completely are gone.
Yeah.
And they're trying to go through the process of filing a notice of intent for that. And some people didn't have too much damage and were able to just, not regrade, but just rake the beach over, basically. So that, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but that could have been what happened here. They didn't have too much damage, and they were able to rake the beach over without having to pull anything from the water,
Yeah,
basically.
because you could see a lot had washed into the water.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's big, yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
It is a sandy pond bottom, I believe, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, when I was on it, there was still all the shells from the whole pond, because that's an endangered
Yeah.
species zone, the water and the sediment.
Sure.
And they had all the shells in there, so that tells me that those shells would not have come with beach nourishment sand.
Right.
I will say that.
Right.
So that tells me they could have just re-raked it or whatnot, but the shells were there, so that was a promising sign.
Are the species, or is the species that has basically been mapping for the priority habitat, is it a freshwater mussel? I didn't,
Yes, there is 2 freshwater mussels and
Okay.
a freshwater clam, I think.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I know one's the yellow lamplighter, the other 2 I just don't remember off the top. of my
okay.
head.
Okay,
Can I make a comment for?
what's it?
Can I make a recommendation for?
Sure.
You mind? So I know that the commission clearly has a concern about the compelling need for this deck. And I know that that's going to be offset by mitigation and protection of the resource area. You are supplying some mitigation. I see that the numbers, you are reducing the numbers from what it was, and I understand the rationale why and what you listed. My question is, to the commission as well as to yourself, one, would your applicant be open to installing dry wells on the house? Because right now, there's no dry wells on the house at all, and the DPW actually has contacted me today with concerns that the dry well over the garage, that's in the corner right there, that goes directly into the road from the driveway, and that's a decent amount of the roof runoff. So I feel that this might be more of an acceptable project and fulfill the compelling need if the house were to install dry wells. If not on the whole house, most definitely on that one corner on the driveway. So I think that might be an option that could be taken forward as well.
As in added to the
Yeah.
proposed mitigation as
Yeah.
a measure. I think it's a great idea, and I'm sure the applicants would be amenable to it. I just obviously would have
No,
to.
have to check, absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure I brought that up because that's an option that could be
Yeah.
developed as well.
Question. So what, I kind of looked at the waiver standards. So what are the waiver standards for a project like this?
It comes down to compelling need, number one, and then it comes down to mitigation as well. For one of the second, mitigation is heavily favored when it comes to the waiver standard. And then the third, I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head.
We've had people request for health reasons. I don't know if that's
Yes.
part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Safety and health.
but there are considerations for that. With this mitigation, they are fulfilling the mitigation needs for this project. And I think that that's good. When it comes to the compelling need, that's going to be up to the commission to determine if that's a compelling need, you know? So, and then anything that could be offset to protect the resource area, i.e. dry wells or something of that nature, could also be taken into consideration for their compelling need as well.
Okay. Let me go out to the public for questions or comments that might be there. Anybody? No? Anything else, Dan, that you would like to read into the record for comments?
Nope, the commission really covered one of the major concerns that was directed from the commission, the agents, which was the side of the house of the deck and the rationale for that. I
Yep.
think at this point, it's almost clear to see, but that could be discussed with your applicant.
Yeah, I'll ask them that question.
Absolutely.
And then when do we hear the answer to that?
If it's going to be continued tonight, you would hear that at the next continuance unless they reach out to me beforehand to notify us of any changes. Which if that were the case to happen that way, please have it 5 days prior to the hearing date. so it can be considered by the commission.
Yeah, the next hearing date, can you give me the date of that? Because I'm going to be away. We may want to bump it.
Right. So the next available one would be October 5th
Oh,
at 6:06.
okay.
Yes.
That'll be fine. Do you know if the commission would be able to close the hearing prior to ZBA review and approval?
Yeah, the way it works is you have to just be applied for ZBA.
Just apply?
Right
okay.
now, they have contacted ZBA. I have a signed form here from the building commissioner that they have already discussed it. They're just waiting to set a date.
Okay.
That's all. So they have applied for it. Date has not been set yet, but you've already applied, and that's what our standard says, just apply for.
Okay.
So.
So I'd
we're-
agree to a continuance to October 5th.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, if there's a motion for that, I'll accept it.
Mr. Chairman, for 33 Sunset Circle, motion to continue to October 5th at
6:06.
6?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Alex. So we have motion made and seconded. Any further discussion from the commission?
So if they come back and say that they don't want to go back to the other side, are we just back where we were tonight?
Sounds like it.
I mean, you can let your clients know, I am not comfortable with the proximity of the deck to the super mature trees that are then going to be a insurance hazard, because my insurance company wants me to take them down because they're too close to the structure and they're not going to insure it. Like it's moving too close to the trees. I'm not in favor of that, so you can let them know that piece of it is not.
So you're not talking now about that oak at the corner of the house, you're talking about the trees along the edge of the pond?
No, I'm talking about the open corner, that's within touching distance from the deck, or the stairs,
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't want them to be like, oh, it's dropping limbs, we gotta take it down, when it's a super mature tree, you're getting really close to it, and you're encroaching on it. Yeah, so,
But wait, Al, I'm sorry, I may have missed it when I was out. If the applicant makes the adjustment so that we go to the other side,
yeah, I don't think there's trees on the other side.
then there's not the tree issue, I just want to
Yeah,
make sure.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, good. So
Or-
we kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
And there's a better, I think there's a better design solution.
Is it better
Potentially,
design?
yeah. Or even moving the stairs inside so they're flush with the house. Maybe that's still not enough for Alex, but for me, I do see it odd that the stairs are kind of jutted out on the side of the house and down, But
Yeah.
I'll certainly bring that up with the builder and just relay the
I think you can
concerns.
address
and
both.
see.
Not that I'm an engineer, but
Yeah,
I think you can address both. And if
Yeah.
your client goes along with that,
yeah.
yahoo.
Yeah.
Okay, no further discussion? Roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So we'll continue this to October 5, 6:06.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now calling the 6:15 hearing for 118 Waiting Place. Stephen and Tricia I. Zeminski. Proposed landscape changes, Representative BSS Design. This is an amended order of conditions, DEP file number 433131. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and with me here is Dustin Wolf of Artistic Grounds, doing the landscape design and implementation. So this house was originally approved on plans that we did in just 2021. As you can see from the pictures, the house has been constructed, and they're working on the landscape now. I'd like to get it buttoned up for the fall. And there were a couple one or two hiccups along the way, where I think one of the neighbors thought that the driveway was encroaching a little onto the property line and all. Dan Kent came out and looked at it, generally halted work on the construction now. There was a landscape plan that had been submitted. It was originally by, I think the one you have is Curadosi, ML Curadosi design on here. This kind of came along with it. He did that for the contractor. And so there are some changes to that plan. I can point out that none of this was mitigation planting. That is, when this house was approved, the pool and patio in the back were already there. The flood zone reaches up to the pool, and there are no resource areas further landward than the pool, other than the flood zone coming up to the, it reaches up, I think, to that patio that you can see up at the top of the page there. So this plan was changed somewhat when it started to be built. And so what we're now requesting to come through is to change from this plan to one that Artistic Grounds have done. I believe, actually, no, I think it's still under, well, I'm not, there was a plan there on the, let's say on the left-hand side of the house, that was proposed to be, it was a turf, artificial grass area for their dogs. It's fenced in, and most of the plant material, see on the right-hand side, there's a row of arborvitae, which are not native, and most of the other, there's hydrangeas, and there's a planting area, little circle between the driveway and the street, which is mostly or entirely, well, mostly anyway, non-native. Dustin can talk more about what's native or not, but there's some Bradford pears and some things in there. And so we talked with Dan at the site, some suggestions to make changes to the plan, mainly substituting native shrubs, for instance, red cedar rather than the arborvitae. And on the left-hand side, rather than what had been proposed as the artificial turf, we'd put in the microclover grass turf. The retaining wall is changed, so now the retaining wall is actually existing trees, but on the left-hand side, but the one that's a little further up, the one that has the line, the label pointing to it, I think it was a 4-inch white pine. That's no longer there, but there's a 16-inch white pine, that one that he's pointing to. That, because that area was filled in, that will have a dry well around it, and loam, and the microclover and grass sod there. Also rather than chip seal driveway, it will now be a permeable pea stone surface. And that wall on the right-hand side or rather the left-hand side, will be further from the property line, and there is an existing dogwood tree there. And at the request of the health department, a vent, which would be required anyway, a vent has been put in to surface over near the dogwood tree on that left-hand side. And so some changes have been made in response to Dan visiting the site and talking with them. But right now we're in a holding pattern. We'd like to work on they are working on a revised landscape plan, as I said, to substitute more native species. And I hope we can work with your staff to arrive at a good solution for native plants that can go in there rather than what's proposed on the Curadosi plan. And one of my concerns is, of course, continuances are going now for, it seems like a month at a time. For the next hearing is October 5th. We start to lose the planting time, where ideally would be in, this month, or so we'd like, if possible, to take comments and see what comments are we can work into a planting plan, and hope we can get it approved, conditioned on that we get a planting plan that's approved by Dan, so that we can get plants into the ground at a good time to do it. So unless Dustin has anything else to say, we'll hear your comments anyway about this.
Sir?
I think he summed it up pretty good.
That was a good thing to say.
Short but sweet. Thank you. I'll open it up to commissioners first for comments or questions.
It is a little hard to follow the plans that we have, but I really think that with the planting season, can we find something that's improvable if I'm working with staff? I don't think we need to see every single detail, but giving the staff the space to do it, that's my take on it.
One of the questions I have for you guys, so you're saying that the wall that's there, and now you're gonna take that out and move it? The wall that's staying that's there in the photographs?
The wall on the left side has been moved.
You're seeing your wall 6 inches minimum from property line?
Yeah, they already did.
Yes.
That's already been done.
So-
That was done
Yeah.
immediately to
Yeah,
get
I can
that
give a little
corrected.
lowdown on that. So what happened was I got a call from a neighbor because there was a minor change to the plan of record that was recorded. I showed up and there was a change to it. Part of that change was the retaining wall. That retaining wall also happened to be, I think it was literally like 5 inches on the neighbor's property. So that had to be moved immediately. I wasn't
So
gonna,
that's already,
yeah, I just told them, get that done, move that whole retaining wall to the location. They moved it to off the property line by a couple inches, so it's within zoning and all that.
okay. What's the condition of that large pitch pine? You gonna save it for the level line?
That's actually, I mislabeled it. That's actually what the white pine I referred
Yeah, there's
to,
a-
and that's
yep.
been,
Where are we?
right now, there's a well, not a built well, but it's, there's no fill around the trunk at that time, and,
Actually, yeah, pitch pines, they're not lasting too long.
no, that's a white pine there, so it's it's a nice tree, so we're gonna do what we can to protect it.
Yeah, I agree with Alex, that, yeah, work with staff on the planting. You gotta keep everything moving along.
Yeah.
It was already approved.
Yep. And what triggered this whole thing is because they are in a coastal bank that's by law only. So when you look on the map, it is the top, the driveway, and that's just a secondary coastal bank, as it's called. Not that it's any less jurisdictional or important, but everything that was done within there is 100% permittable. They just didn't have it on the plan of record, that's all.
It'll make it easier when you go to do the COC.
Yeah, that is true.
That'll be good.
That was the whole thing I was stressing to them, so that was for certain.
Yep. Sandy?
I agree with Alex.
Okay. Marjorie, all set?
I'm all set.
Okay. I have no questions. I'll go out to the public if there's any questions or comments in the audience. Doesn't appear to be. Anything further, Dan, you'd like to add, or?
No, I'll just read into the record what I had down for comments. All changes to the original plan fall within the secondary coastal bank per Mashpee's bylaw. Alterations to the plan on the northwest side of the lot are not a detriment to any resource areas due to the dry well installation and the drainage management for stormwater runoff. Proposed turf should be replaced with low-maintenance vegetation, i.e. grass, clover, or other substitute, and arborvitae's in the southeast lot line be substituted with Easton Red Cedar. Any condition, 3-year mitigation sign monitoring contract to be made with a sort of certified horticulturalist for an approval, and I would recommend a close and issue with working with the agents for approval from there.
Okay, thank you. All right. I would entertain a motion. Somebody would like to?
I'll make a motion to close, issue, the amended order of conditions for 18 Waiting Place. With the condition that you'll work with the staff to identify further plans.
Okay, Steve. And you want to add the 3-year sign mitigation contract?
Yes, and we'll sign 3-year mitigation. Well, is it mitigation?
Mitigation monitoring contract.
Yeah, it'll be for the mitigation monitoring contract. With the development here, it'll be a little bit of mitigation, which will be incorporated into the trees, because they will be adding one.
Okay.
So.
So then, yeah, with 3-year sign mitigation.
Okay. All right. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion amongst the commissioners? Yes, Alex. There are two different,
Separate notes.
one came from Drew, one came from Dan. You were stuck in the traffic too long tonight. Do you want to hold on a minute to see that? Okay. So no further questions or comments? I'll take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Staff and neighbors, property. Knock it off.
I will say the neighbor is actually very happy with how it turned out.
They're very
Yeah,
happy.
he is.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
All right, I'll be in contact.
Okay.
It's always, for the record, Ruther, it's always a big moment. For me as a homeowner and for anyone else, you know, how did that happen? Oops. All right, so just one more again. Shoestring? That's it?
Alex, I don't think.
Thank you, sir.
Margie says she, there you go.
What? What's that?
Is that better? Can you hear me now? I just turned it on.
Yes,
It was off.
I thought that was intentional.
No.
You never notice when I'm sitting up here if it's on or off.
No, you can't tell. I just noticed the light was out.
That's why I kept doing that.
Sorry.
Moving on. Now calling the 6:18 hearing for 61 Shoestring Bay Road, 61 Shoestring Bay Road LLC. Proposed final house footprint with associated landscaping, hardscaping, appurtenances, and utilities. Representative is WRS Engineering LLC. This is continued from August 24th, 2023, amended order of conditions, file number 433062. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Roy Okarowski from WRS Engineering with Andrew
Garrelane.
he's the landscape architect. We're filing for an amended order for a pre-existing order on the property, which had a generic footprint, so we had to come back with a detailed plan and planting plan. Just a few numbers to review with the house. The proposed house is, the lot coverage, just to point out, is 13.69%, and the total coverage is 16.8%. And those numbers are accurate. The one thing on the lot is on the eastern end of the lot, there's a portion of wetland that's labeled BVW that's not included in some of the lot calculations, by the way. Just to clarify that, so you're looking at that. The important factors on this filing were the previous delineation of the coastal bank, which shows, was delineated by a slope and a flood zone delineation. When I went out to the site, I noticed, and I just want to put this in for the record, we're not disputing this line because it's locked in from the last filing, but the landform itself appears to be the same landform, and we believe personally, the lot line was done that just because of where they could get the survey shots, and the grade break was very close to being, keeping this coastal bank way down there, but we're accepting the line, so we're going with it. I just wanted to point that out. We're proposing a dwelling, hardscape, and abundant planting. The resource areas that we're in the things are coastal bank. We delineated both the state coastal bank and the town coastal bank regulations as shown on the plan. We've shown the offsets to the coastal bank. We believe we meet the performance standards. It's spelled out in detail on here. Because of the size of the house, the hardscape, and the line, which we basically cannot cross from the last filing, we've got plantings, a number of native plantings on the property, and we feel that there's not a whole lot else we could do. If we could do more mitigation, we would, but we're basically maxed out from the design on the property. Can you bring up the landscaping plan? Just so they can, do you have that one?
Not on my computer, no.
It was submitted.
That'll be the next one.
We got one on a board too, right here.
I think it's the one that says 61, the last one. Yeah.
Oh, you know what I did? Yeah, I know what I did.
No, you don't have the other one. We've got it on a board right here.
You don't have that in your packet?
This one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have it in our packets.
So I'm just going to let Andrew go over some of the plants that we propose.
Yes, everything shown in green. Is this on? You can hear me okay? Yeah. Everything shown in green are native plants, including the hedge, which would be a winterberry hedge.
Could you scooch it just a little bit more this way?
Oh, sorry.
That's great, thanks.
So everything shown in green, there's a number of different plants. There's, I've got heritage clump birch, or river birch, I should say, some switchgrass, but mountain laurel, northern bayberry, winterberry, inkberry, sweet pepper bush or clethra, and a little bit of fern and for some ornamental stuff down here on the retaining wall. The house is kind of tucked into the lot, or the retaining wall along the southern edge here. There's a swimming pool placed at an intermediate level between the walkout basement and the first floor, and steps coming up the side of the garage area here. And then the other side of the house is also retained, and around the back side is retained to level out for the house. There's bayberry, winterberry, and clethra along the side of the property line. The grade is made so that it's very flat out in the front. Got a little bit of a depression here to catch some water before it goes around the corner. Lots of drainage in the hardscape area underneath. There's drainage structures here, double one here, and over here as well, to catch all the runoff from hardscape and roof. This is on a sewer system in Willow Bend. And what else can I say? I guess that's about it to put the questions.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to commissioners first.
I'm just not familiar with what it is, but what are the two quick four standard chambers set on clean sand?
Drainage structures.
Okay, but not for like a drawdown of the pool?
No, they're drainage structures, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. To catch there's channel drains all around the pool area, and that's what that's for, and also to catch the roof runoff.
okay. So the roof runoff is to go into those drains, there's not dry wells, or like any,
They're bigger drainage structures like a dry well, but they're large.
That's what
Okay.
they are.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
A couple of questions that I have is, the retaining wall, it looks like it's going to be 7 feet high, where you get grade 18 run across, on top of the wall is 25.2.
Yeah.
But it looks like that you have limit of work hay bale is within 2.5 feet of that.
So
I don't know how you can construct that.
I can address that. So when they go in and they pour that foundation, the back foundation for the house, that's going to be basically almost above grade. And then we're going to come in with a machine this way along the back, and then we're going to place the chambers. And then the way the anchor block wall works is you've got the fabric going in underneath. So they're going to have to go in, put some soil down, put the first layer of, the structural geogrid that goes back that holds the wall, and then build a section of wall, and then they'll be able to back their way out and build it sequentially right out the back. They're not going to have a machine over here where they're not allowed to. There's plenty of room there to do that.
But,
It doesn't have to be below this frost line.
right, so are you building the wall from inside the wall and not on the outside?
Basically, yes.
So.
So the machine, just picture going in, like this, and then they're gonna go in, that's gonna be, it's basically all above grade at this point to the walls in there. Before they put the wall in, it's down there, there's a foundation wall right here, so they're gonna drive the machine in, they're gonna put some soil in, put a couple courses of anchor block wall, then they're gonna put the geogrid, then they're gonna put more soil and back, and just keep building it up like this. They'll probably can only reach about a 20-foot section at a time, and then they'll back up the machine and do it again and again and again.
Yeah, but,
It's a
footings
shallow
supposed to be 4 foot
excavation.
below grade for retaining wall?
No,
No, this is a segmental wall, so it flexes with the frost.
Okay. So you're going to have hay bales all along there with no disturbance on the other side of it, and the hay bales going to stop all erosion from this construction site?
And a silt
with the
fence
steep
as well.
grade?
yes.
Okay. All right. And then,
It's going to be a lot of excavation, so before that,
right.
on the
So
hillside itself.
in the previous approval from 2020, I understand there was a footprint, building footprint. So you guys are going beyond that building footprint that was approved in
I
2020.
guess there was some correspondence between the owner and I'm not sure which agent it was, but basically they said, as long as, my understanding when I was hired is as long as we stayed behind the line, and we provided some plantings that they'd consider it. So there was no fixed square footage footprint in the order. Doesn't say you can't, there was no condition put on. It just said this is basically a footprint of a house because they were doing, trying to get something in there. That's when I was brought on, to my knowledge. That's how we can address it.
Okay.
That's how it was put to me as well. Although I've never had direct conversation with Drew or any other staff on it, just with the developer.
So to my knowledge, it's not a house footprint, it was a building envelope.
That's what I thought, too.
It was an area that you were allowed to build inside of.
That's all I've seen,
And
yeah.
you can't go outside that envelope at all. That was the original order of 2020.
But does that mean that whole envelope can then be,
That's all they have to work with.
That was not what was conveyed from the agent to the owner. And I guess at this point, will request a continuance and get documentation of that, basically, because there's been a tremendous amount of work done based on that conversation, and there's an email record of it. And I understand that the commission has preview over that, but that was the premises for what was done with this.
I had a copy of the plan, that's,
Is that the envelope?
yeah.
Yeah, I've
There's
seen that.
two sheets there. I just, I understand how, thank you for the construction protocol, because that was a key thing for me. But I'm just, you're within 2.5 feet of that limit, and it's a 7-foot-high wall. I know everything is, I know it's that grade, but the final result is 7.5 feet high. Segment the wall with, you're gonna have a deck with columns on that too. So you're saying that the wall's gonna flex. Well, you have columns with a deck with loading on top of it, so how can that work?
The compaction behind it is going to be like 95 to 97%, and basically you're on the same soil as the house is going to be on at that point. I've done a lot of these walls. I did one for Mass Maritime that has them all over the place, and with loading behind them, and if they're done right with the geotextile, not the geotextile, the geogrid behind them, and it's compacted properly and checked, it'll hold up. That's my professional
Right, but
opinion.
how will you have 2, 4, 6, 8. There's like eight columns for, it looks like a deck above. So what are those columns? That you have a deck load with snow load on it. So what are those sitting on?
They're sitting on the ground.
So there's no concrete footings to support those posts behind the wall? Or are they on top of the wall?
I'd have to
I don't
pull
know the
the
building.
foundation plan. I don't have the foundation plan. There's not.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not 100% seeing that this is going to work without, structural details, cross-section through, I know there's a generic cross-section of a wall here.
Yeah, we
but,
can provide, we can
doesn't
provide.
give a detail.
We can provide more detail on that part of it.
You're saying that, yeah, I'm just, with the grade dropping off pretty steeply there, it's saying, okay, over time, we'll, I know the wall will hold, but there's a lot of load there. Will that, give way at some point or something happen?
I don't know if the architect will have to pull the columns back in a little bit or not, I don't know.
Because it is at grade, so, okay, over time, will that get undermined at grade for one reason or another?
And if the whole thing is within the 50-foot to the top of the coastal bank, how,
I think the red line's a 100-foot buffer zone, right?
Yeah, so the blue
blue
is
is
the
50 to the wetland,
and the red is the 100.
from the top of coastal
Yeah,
bank.
there's two, it was requested, there were two sets of offsets. The bigger, straighter lines are from the BV, what was called BVW. It actually is not a real BVW, it's really edge of marsh, but they called it BVW, and it was in the previous plan, so we just accept that as a BVW. We put in because everything's basically in the resource area buffers, and then in terms of the coastal bank, those offsets, the blue line going through the driveway and the red line are the ones
so
from
the
the
whole
coastal
thing is
bank.
within 50 feet?
It's all within the
Coastal bank.
coastal bank, but it was approved to do that.
It was
Well, it's the
approved as-
building, and a building envelope was approved, but not the amount of footprint.
Right.
Is the
It's tricky.
what is do you have the copy of that order? I think I submitted it with it.
Yeah, right
What's the
here.
actual verbiage? Is there anything specific to?
It just says
Approved
you-
building envelopes.
It just says you have to come back for approval of a generic building and driveway envelope. No lot clearing, things of that nature can commence until such time. The original approval was for the approved building envelope for a single-family home with associated appurtenances as per the project description and notice of intent narrative.
Was there, to my knowledge, this was like a generic one that was done for most of the lots in here? It was just specific for this? And is there, it was my understanding that basically this is kind of what was submitted for everyone and then they came back. Is that not the case on a lot of these houses?
You're talking about on
On Shoestring,
Bay in Willow Bend.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't,
You know,
I don't know the answer.
I
to
mean,
that.
I guess, the premises on it is the building envelope. If that was the max area, there was a very, serious misinterpretation of what, this is before we were on board, what was allowed and wasn't allowed. And if it was conveyed that way, we're just going to have to ask for a continuance to go back. If you're going to say that's the envelope and that's where you have to stay in, then.
Right. The building is within the envelope, and it would be impossible, the wording is, I'm sorry, you took it away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I bet.
Okay. It says approved building envelope for a single-family home with associated appurtenances. So you can't have associated appurtenances to get to a building that's in the envelope. The implication is the appurtenances would not necessarily be in that envelope. The envelope is the building envelope for the building, because it would be impossible to have a building there without the appurtenances being outside of the envelope. So that is what the interpretation was, that was passed on to me, was
That the appurtenances could be closer to the resource area than the building envelope.
the appurtenances, well, the building envelope, nothing goes outside of the building envelope toward the resource area. We go off on the edges with some hardscape and retaining walls, and also the driveway is also outside of the building envelope.
I mean, it also references applicable mitigation, which there would be mitigation within 50 feet to the top of the coastal bank. And, right, so I mean, you would have mitigation plantings as well, which I appreciate the native plantings shown there, but they're not mitigation plantings. They're not closest to the resource area. They're not.
But the building, everything outside of the building envelope closer to the resource areas is fully vegetated.
Right, and if those disturbances within 50 feet to the top of the coastal bank require mitigation plantings, we, as a commission, typically require those plantings to be sited closer to the resource area. So that means maybe the cabana's not right there. Maybe the pool is backed up. Maybe things are backed away, and there's mitigation.
Yeah, I don't know
Right.
the answer to that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we've been doing, right? I have some concerns, and I know I read the introductory materials. When I look at Regulation 16 for Coastal Bank, I have some concerns that the performance standards aren't being met. I mean, there's an awful lot of area of the coastal bank that has a cumulative effect because it's being covered up by the home and the appurtenances. So I'm doubtful that you've met the performance standards. Go ahead.
Can I interject?
Sure.
Just ask a question on that? If we go down and resurvey that and show you that, and this is my belief that, and I'm not making this up, I just reviewed some of the survey data down there, and the shots were few and far between wherever they got. And my opening statement was that this is not a coastal bank. If we can show from a surveyed plan that this line actually carries right through, then you would have maybe half of the house in the coastal bank. But I'm not sure, because there was an order of conditions showing this, that we're allowed to dispute that line.
From my understanding, everything that's on this is what it is for
Okay.
this case. For this case, yeah.
What if we did a new filing or an ANRAD?
I think you'd have a snowball's chance of hell of getting a house on this lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say, if you refiled,
No, that's fine. I was just asking procedurally if that, would it be acceptable? I didn't think it was, that's why I didn't dispute it. But have you been to the site? Anyone out there?
I tried, but
Yeah.
the
I
gate
have
was
been.
down, I wasn't able to
Yeah,
get in.
if you go out there, you can clearly see it's one landform, and there is no slope difference when you walk, I went through the bushes down here. So just taking that into account, you're talking about, I know legally and by the binding of the previous order, it is coastal bank, but it's not a coastal bank, in my professional opinion, and I'm not arguing that.
Sure.
But everything you're saying, putting it closer, the whole thing's in a coastal bank, I think it's better to look at the landform, and we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
That's, what I'm saying.
Another question I have, I'm assuming this is all being tied into Willow Bend's wastewater treatment.
Yes.
We have another hearing that's open right now for the project on Quiniquisette. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a multi-building proposal on about 5 acres of land. And that whole project is held up because the planning board is questioning the number of bedrooms that Willow Bend is authorized to have on their permit. So I'm wondering if the number of bedrooms in this particular project is going to affect that other project. Are the two tied together?
Well, there's, in order to build anything here, you need a special permit from zoning.
Right.
And I believe it would be addressed through that application, not our application.
And has that application to zoning been made?
Yes, been filed.
Do you have a hearing date for that?
They should have. Do you have that posted? I got an email from the attorney saying they filed it last week.
I know, I was just having a conversation this morning about this very topic with someone else, the number of bedrooms, and that hasn't been established to my knowledge. We, in another project, we're waiting to get clearance so that we can have a peer review environmental company look at that proposal. So I'm just wondering how this is going to square off with that. Again, just throwing that out as a question.
I don't know.
So if we continue, when is a sufficient amount of time for you to, or for like information gathering, figuring out how to come back?
So
back.
what we'd like to continue for a minimum of the next one's, when's the next open one?
October 5th.
October 5th? Probably not October 5th to work through that, your questions. And then, prior to that, we'll submit an overlay of the building envelope to basically show you, how we've complied with the previous order. I think it would be understandable to the agent, then we'll work with the agent prior to come with the 3 issues that you've brought up. One question I do have is if we are in the envelope and we have this and we don't have room for what you're calling mitigation, what are you asking for mitigation for our, because there was, are you on a 2-to-1, a 1-to-1? What is your, would you be looking for?
The minimum, I believe, is 2-to-1.
Because that's not going to work here.
Right, but then it doesn't mean you can just pave everything, because there's no way you can put in the amount of mitigation we would require. Like,
But it's you got to understand that what was previously approved was already, you wouldn't be able to do it. From the envelope that was approved before, you'd never get a 2-to-1 to fit on the lot, because it was already, those areas. So we'll look at it. We'll just ask for a continuance. We understand what you want.
Yeah.
And
So continuance, would that be the November 5th? Oh, is it?
Well, now the zoning hearing, did you say, Dan?
Yeah,
is
so the
October
zoning
11th?
hearing's October 11th.
yeah, so it'd be better to be after.
So you could do before or after, it's up to you. You can do October 5th or October 19th, or go into November at that point.
I'd say the 19th would be. Is that?
You're probably going to end up getting a continuance at zoning as well, because they're not going to act on it if we're not finished.
But then, that's not until November, though.
And the
Right.
bedroom count issue too.
Yep, I
Yeah, I
will
don't know
say,
where
I'll
that
comment
is.
for the
It's a-
bedroom count. I did talk to the planning board, not to the planning board, but to Evan. And he did say with permits like this, to go, we can still go ahead through it with approving and stuff, because in the end, it would get caught up in zoning or with planning in general. So we are good to go for that with any permit that's being presented to us.
And that also just gets like chicken and the egg, because then they say, oh, well, Concom approved it, so then we'll approve it
Right.
and waive this, even though like that might not be our jurisdiction, the bedrooms, but then they say, well, but Concom gave it a thing. When we'll write pending zoning approval or whatever, and then they just are like, oh, but Concom approved it. So I don't really understand that process.
I don't either.
They
we have any
address
clar-
their issues and you address your issues separately. It's never, they never decide that conservation is, the health department's not going to say, well, conservation said it's okay, so we got to give them a permit for the septic.
You would think that that kind of thing wouldn't be said in meetings, but it absolutely carries weight. With zoning and with planning, if we approve something, they say, oh, well, it was able to get a Concom approval, so then we'll approve it, even if it doesn't meet some of their standards. So
I don't know.
it's been happening.
Do we have a clarification, though, on the Willow Bend?
At this time,
No.
We don't, how could that go unaddressed or unanswered from,
Oh, I don't
Willow
know
Bend.
where they're at with it, planning board,
Well, yeah, I mean,
Willow
you know
Bend.
what-
But they are,
what's the number?
oh, I don't know, the planning board is addressing it. They have been, I don't know where they're at with it right
The
now.
planning board met last night, and it was on their agenda, but they asked for a continuance, so I'm
Oh, wow.
assuming they're still not there with the information that
Wow.
planning's requiring. And that's, I mean, we're held up reviewing that
Right.
same project, so, I don't know.
But that doesn't waive on your decision on this, if that's still out there. Because you can't deny a project because based on that, there's no flow.
What we can't do is, we can't condition a set of plans that aren't final. I mean, if they're not approved by the planning board, why would we take our time, energy, and the money involved to have all of those plans peer-reviewed, and then only to have the applicant come back with a different set of plans?
I guess the point was and it was brought up, which takes purview, the zoning, planning and zoning, or conservation, which one goes first?
Right.
You
I can't answer
You
that.
can't both say the other one goes first.
Exactly.
There has to be a procedure.
It's always been conservation.
It's usually conservation, it was my understanding, because if conservation doesn't work, then nothing works.
Right.
So,
But if we're not given a
That's the
final
truth.
plan, how can we review it? That's the problem.
you can't, but it's like passing it back, saying, well, we're not going to look at it because we don't know, and that's not the way the regulations are written, I believe.
What I do know is the last time Willow Bend was in here, they asked for a continuance, and they wanted it as far down the road as they could possibly get. And I believe it's the end of September that they're coming back.
Yeah, very, very.
Okay.
And whether they're going to have an answer then
No,
and
that's-
final
that's
plans,
fine.
great, then we can act.
Yep.
But until that continuance is heard, we can't do anything.
That's fine. And I
Okay.
have one more
So
question.
don't run, because I haven't
Okay.
entertained a motion or voted on any
No,
of
this is another question
Oh.
pertaining to procedure. If this thing does go south for the water, the sewer bedroom issue, does this board accept indefinite continuances? I know some boards do, because say they're going to do, this lot is sitting here, say it can't be developed until they upgrade the wastewater treatment plant or come up with something else. And so it just basically goes on hold, and rather than have the permit run out, can there be an indefinite continuance? Just table it for,
But the order of conditions would expire.
no, there's no order.
No,
You
there's
just
no-
table the
just a hearing.
filing.
No, just table his filing,
hearing.
so he doesn't have to withdraw it.
Right.
Wait till the appropriate time.
There is an existing.
But there is an existing order.
Order of conditions.
There is.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but this is,
That's right.
this is
This is amended.
this is a new this is a filing on it. So,
But this is just, you're trying to amend that
Yeah.
existing order of conditions.
Right, so,
The existing order would expire. at
yeah,
some
it
point.
would.
right.
That was my
Unless
question,
there-
so.
Yeah.
There's no way to go farther than the existing order timeline of
Right, because you have to come back
3
to
years
extend
plus
that.
the 2-year
You
extension.
have
Right.
to extend it, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
So we're going to, I'm going to ask for a motion for a
Yeah.
continuance.
Can I just
Yes.
ask one thing? So I have a question when it pertains to the path that you have
Yeah.
on plan here. So I see the path is on the plan. If that path were to go in, I'd recommend avoiding all mature trees, zigzagging the path. But I also had questions as to the path in general. It goes directly into private property owned by Willow Bend?
So it's just drawn on here to access nowhere, really. I mean, there's nothing really down there, so.
No, absolutely, that's why I
So
was
that
curious.
property, on the property line map, it's shown as the lot, but then if you look on the plan of land, but then it's labeled, public land, the common land and it goes through the whole parcel, so.
I just say that because it's a salt marsh, and you're not supposed to be trouncing through
Yeah,
salt marshes.
there's no plans to put any, and we'd be happy to have anything conditioned that way. We're not going in
I just
any
wanted to make
salt
sure,
marsh.
Because I know it's owned by Willow Bend and that, it would be complicated.
Yeah.
And I did see on GIS that there might be some kind of deck out there that I will be addressing with Willow Bend, so I want to make sure that wasn't included in any future plans.
Okay.
So.
No, I didn't see.
Okay.
Dan, I have a question.
Yep.
Before we go to the motion. Isn't there also an issue with a wooden ramp structure along the edge of the salt marsh that needs to be removed?
That's the one I was just
That's when
mentioning.
he's talking.
That,
You did.
I noticed it on GIS the other day.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I tracked it, and it actually has been worked on in the past 5 years.
Is that being accessed from the property next door, most likely?
I can't say for certain because it's.
I
it's
think it
off
would
at
be
an
because you
angle.
can't get through here.
Yeah, I just
right
wanted to
now.
make sure this access path was not for that at all.
No, it
Because I
is.
am going to be addressing that with Willow Bend. So,
All right.
Okay. I'll accept a motion if there is one.
Mr. Chairman, for 61 Shoestring Bay Road, 61 Shoestring Bay Road LLC, recommend a continuance to October 19th at
6 PM.
6 PM.
1, 2, 6.
I second.
Thank you, Alex. Motion made and seconded. Any further comments, questions, discussions? amongst
No,
the
no
commissioners?
condition?
Okay.
Whatever.
Just a continuance. Okay, roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes?
Andy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So we'll see you on October 19th.
And
6
you
o'clock.
accept, I can do it online, you can attend the meeting online?
Virtually, yes, correct.
Virtual? Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
If that's the case, please just request it from our office for the Zoom link. That's
Okay.
all.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
18. We have 2 certificates of compliance. I think they're both,
They both passed.
they both passed. 76 Triton Sound and 53 Pickerel Cove Circle. Pamela Barber, trustee. And those will be coming around for signatures. I'm going to back up a little bit here then to our discussions. No, let me go to approval of minutes. Get that done. The minutes of August 10th, voting on those would be Paul Colombo, Alexandra Zolo, Stephen Cook, Sandy Godfrey. Have you had a chance to take a look at those?
I glanced at them.
I read them word for word.
I believe it.
I did. You guys all set with them?
Sure.
One thing I will mention specifically for Brad, both of these sets of minutes show Charles Dalton, member, as being absent. He's no longer on the commission. He did resign. So you might just take him off that template,
I was just going to mention that, too.
okay?
Good job, though, Brad.
Yeah, the minutes are exceptional, as always. Nice job. That's the only thing I saw that,
I was going to mention that, too.
for you. Okay, motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Sandy. Second?
Second? You're not on those.
I'm your backup girl.
Thank you, Marjorie.
That's it.
Any other questions? No? Roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes
Marjorie
as well.
can't-
Oh, wait a second.
Marjorie can't vote.
Oh, I wasn't there.
And
Yeah,
let's,
stop trying to rope me into do
let's
something
back
illegal.
up then,
Thank you for
because
voting yes, though.
I've got you as the second on that.
Yeah, I
not
was.
Marjorie.
Yeah,
Okay.
because she can't.
But see how willing I am?
Did
was
you
a
break
close
your
one.
microphone?
Did you see?
Minutes of
Look.
August 24th, voting on those would be Paul Colombo, Alexandra Zola, Stephen Cook, Marjorie Clapprood, Sandra Godfrey. So there'll be no problem with this. Do you all have a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Same issue, Brad, on that. Charles Dalton, just get his name off of there. Those look fine to me as well. Is there a motion to accept?
I move to accept.
She was louder.
Everyone's getting active now. Marjorie first, Sandy second. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
No other questions?
I was a first.
Voting, Alex?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
At least we amuse ourselves,
That's
right?
right. When we're right, we're spot on, man.
Just want to check out something. Okay. Under discussion. No, hold on. That's not
This
what I
is
wanted.
terrible. I didn't do this.
I'm going to go to communication and correspondence first, before we get to any of the updates. We received some communication over the last 2 weeks, and I'm just going to pull that up on my screen. Hold on for a second. We were notified town clerk was notified on August 31st, 2023, that there is a civil suit that is going to be filed against the Town of Mashpee Zoning Board of Appeals, and all of our records have been requested. That's for the project at 25 Menemsha Road. So our office is now actively getting those records together?
Yeah, so all department heads, except for the town clerk office, received a letter. So the clock did not start the day we get the letter. It only starts the day town clerk gets it.
Wow.
And since they didn't receive one, they started the clock the day I asked them some questions about it. So the clock was just recently started.
September
But-
1, I see it stamped, September 1?
Yes.
At 2:02.
Yeah, and we had it, gosh, we had it the week before that, I'd say 4 or 5 days before that, that we
Yeah,
received.
you
it.
must have got it then before she did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, she used ours, she used Conservation's.
Wow.
To scan it, because she really didn't get one. And then she contacted the lawyer, he completely understood.
Yeah.
So the clock started then. We're pretty much almost done with the records request. We have, I say almost, there's a lot of documents in that. But we are almost done, so we'll have it done by Monday or Tuesday.
And does that go back to the records for the plunge pool that was proposed?
Anything on the property, administrative approval, emails, photographs, anything that was ever done on that property,
Wow.
conversations,
That's a lot to do.
minutes, it's a lot, especially for this property, which has had a long history of permitting.
A long history of what?
Permitting?
Permitting.
They've
yeah.
had Vista
Oh,
pruning.
right, right.
Yeah, they've had Vista pruning from their early days that
Right.
the individual owned it to.
It seems like an
everything going on.
overreach, no?
So, it's a FOIA request.
Public
So
records,
it's
yeah.
public records, and we're
Yeah.
gonna accommodate that absolutely 100%. So
Lot
that's for
of
certain.
trees that are gonna die because of that request.
Yeah.
We also have correspondence from the Cape Cod Commission regarding the proposed cell tower up on Great Neck North Road. Apparently, they don't want any type of permitting being done on that project until I'm looking for the acronym, a DRI approval is made by the commission. And I know somebody's going to ask, and I'm looking for the
What it
acronym.
stands for?
It is a, please
Let's
not-
all try and guess.
Determination of reasonable. Oh, yeah.
Say it
Development
again?
Regional Impact.
Regional impact, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. So I had talked with Dan about whether we had jurisdiction or not. There is a certified vernal pool on the next lot, but I couldn't tell from the GIS if it's within the 100-foot reach that we have. And I don't know where we are with that anyways.
Yeah, and that's gonna be something that will definitely be addressed. It's not within 100 feet of, I don't know where they're proposing the cell tower yet. We haven't got any information. But from the property itself, it's very close, but it is outside the 100-foot. But that will come into consideration, say, I know I know of a tower that went up in Rochester, that's going up in Rochester at about 280 feet, and that one requires cable supports. So that would be a question, whereas the one down in Red Brook does not require any. So it will come down to the type of tower they want to install.
Yeah, I think that one is 130, is it?
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so I think that's all we had for correspondence. I don't recall anything else coming in. So I wanted to cover those two, and then our updates, and I'll turn those over to you, Dan.
So first, can we just discuss the water quality really quick?
Oh, sure, yes.
So I just have not an update, but in I believe it was the Times, and that article should be in everybody's folder, I hope. It's an article about what's quote bioreactors, and they're doing some research on it. Basically, they're researching how to convert the nitrite pollution in the water into a nitrate, basically to become a fertilizer for eelgrass, to encourage eelgrass to grow back. And they're doing tests on that, and I include that in the packet for everyone to take home. Because that is a direction that looks fairly promising, And that is something that has not really been studied worldwide yet, and it is starting to be looked at as a reasonable solution for some things, if not solution, but something that can help improve. So I think that's good for the commission to know about.
I saw that. In fact, I downloaded that and put it on my
Wait, what do you
computer
want us to
when it
take
came out.
home this?
It's the Woods Hole Sciences.
The Woods Hole one,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Denitrifying.
It's a good direction, and it gives a good concept and idea of options and capabilities that are out there currently. So, and now, on to some of the updates. So I attended an association meeting on September 9th. Or I will be attending the association meeting for the what's the name of it?
Redbrook,
Redbrook, but the association there.
Surf
Seabrook.
Drive.
Seabrook Village.
Yeah, Seabrook Village. I'll be attending the association meeting this weekend because they are interested in selling their land on Redbrook to whomever is going to acquire it. A letter of intent was sent out 2 weeks ago for an application to fund restoration of the Redbrook River in that section where the boards are taken out. That restoration would include land acquisition, one from Falmouth from a private landowner, and the second one from Mashpee from the Seabrook Association. Both entities are more than willing to give or sell their property away to encourage basically the restoration to take place. So that was a very promising thing. That letter of intent has been filed between the town of Mashpee, Wacoit Bay, I think DCR is involved, Friends of Mashpee Wildlife, and the Fish and Wildlife for the state as well, amongst a couple other partners. And we're all working together to get that job done because, as you all know, Redbrook had the boards taken out. There was some controversy over it. That controversy has settled because it actually looks gorgeous now. And with the restoration.
really nice, beautiful flowering plants.
Absolutely, and with the restoration, it will look even better. So that's where we're at with Redbrook. Upper Quashnet restoration, APCC is assisting with upcoming NOAA funding to expand wetland restoration to the degree feasible in the Upper Quashnet bogs. Some of the area bog are overgrowth to serve as significant wildlife habitat and thus should not be disturbed as part of the restoration scenario. There is a potential to expand wetland restoration from the current scope. So that aspect, the Upper Quashnet is going to be incorporated in a grant being written by APCC that will also incorporate a couple other things in town amongst other projects in Cape Cod. So that'll be an all, not an inclusive Mashpee thing, that will be incorporating Cape Cod as well. Bylaw Review Subcommittee, agent will schedule the next meeting when the schedule allows for it. So, well, he's dealing with some family stuff, so it's just, that needs to be tended to first. Very broad, so.
We're on hold for a little bit.
So check your emails, please.
I don't really mind being on hold for that one.
Johns Pond and Santuit Pond Milfoil, ongoing correspondence with Wampanoag Tribe in regards to their invasive species grant funding. Status of available funds has yet to be determined. Town has some funding set aside for treatment of invasive species, but more funding is needed based on assessment of invasive aquatic plants and scope of work from Water and Wetlands LLC. So that's where we're at with that. Chop Shake Bog, notice of intent will be filed by the Horsley Witten Group for October 5th public meeting of the commission. Local comprehension plan, no updates. Land acquisition subcommittee, we are having discussions and meetings. Alex has been involved to see if that can be incorporated into the EOC or see if it's going to still stand alone. So that'll be updated. The herring exodus continues at all three runs. Runs to be cleaned flush of debris once out migration has concluded, typically mid-late November. We have been at Johns Pond every single day clearing out that
Is
line
it
run.
just the greatest thing?
It's great to see. Johns Pond, the run has been getting horribly clogged up every single day with weeds. So I'm not saying it's stopping them from going down. I still see them at the bottom of the ladder, the babies, so that's an encouraging sign. But that just gives more encouragement that the ladder absolutely has to be redone. And that we are working on with funding, and we are not in the process, we are in the final stages of acquiring that and taking care of that, so that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Harbor Management Committee, no new updates. Next meeting, September 26th. In the Mashpee River, NRCS funding paperwork has been signed and sent to NRCS for signatures on their end for $300,000 to fund all expenses related to design, planning, and permitting for restoration of the Mashpee River Herring Run and specific areas of erosion along the upper Mashpee River from the outlet at Mashpee Pond to the culvert under Great Neck North. And I will also be applying for a grant that's due in December for work on the Mashpee River as well, so that we can ensure that we have enough funding for it. 300,000 is going to cover the planning of this, but I can't imagine what the cost is going to be when you incorporate redesigning the entire herring run on the Mashpee River. So the more money we have, the better. So the grant I will be applying for is, let me pull it out. The Coastal Habitat Restoration and Resilience Grant for Tribes and Underserved Communities. There's two grants like this out there, the same exact one. One is for the tribe to apply for directly, and the other one is for state, local, nonprofits, et cetera, to apply for. So I am going to apply for that with a letter of interest from the tribe showing support for it, is what I'm hoping. So that's due December 19th. So next month and then forth, I will be very busy writing that grant. That's for certain. But it's absolutely needed on the Mashpee River because there's quite the amount of fish hindrances on fish passages that they have to traverse, to the point where I have pictures of dead herring on both sides of those dams. And they're not dams, they're wooden structures in the water, that one of them has created a complete difference in the river that actually created its own little ecosystem in that section of the river. It's not good. Not good. The ecosystem itself will most likely stay, but the river itself is getting very sedimented there because the velocity coming through that wooden funnel has created about a 6 to 7 foot deep hole right in front of it that is just pouring sand out every day. So that needs to be addressed. That's one of the projects.
Is there, I just want to ask real quick, there was a grant writing position approved for the town. Has that person started yet?
Time, yeah, I don't know.
I have not heard anything about that, no.
What's going on with that?
I have not. I have not. So I would love it. That's for
Right.
certain. So yeah, so that is that for the updates.
Okay, one last thing, I just wanted to remind everybody that this Sunday is the third annual splash for Mashpee Wakeby. New twist this year, nobody is swimming, it's just boats. I heard that today.
Oh, good, I don't have to.
There's concern about the
Shelter a
water
swimmer.
quality and having people swim the entire length of that pond and exposing themselves to the potential for cyanobacteria. So it's just going
What
to be.
happens if
It's just going to be boats only.
no kayaks?
I can't tell you anything more than that. It's something I heard as I was going out the door
I'll be in my
this evening.
float.
Aw, that's
But it is Sunday. If you have some time to go up and support that effort, that would be great because they are
You were
working
supposed
hard.
to do that? Yeah. No?
Okay, I have nothing further, unfortunately, but
A motion to adjourn.
thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Alex.
All in favor?
No discussion? Votes, Alex?
Yes.
A little
Steve?
power.
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes, sir.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. We are done. 8:20.